welcome experts, welcome everyone. I'm so happy that you're here. And tonight, the topic is something that I think that we all need to really think about, because one of the things that I've learned from everything that's happened is there's two things that really struck me. Number one, we have to learn to be the best humanitarians we can. It no longer can just be about us or our small circle. We really have to think globally, and we have to think about, that the elders and all the other people around us. And the other thing that I've learned is that we have to be ready for battle at all times. Our body always has to have the armor ready for battle. And so these experts that I have on today, they are the best at really helping us get aligned with that and learn all the strategies to bring us to that place of armor. And I want to start tonight with JJ Virgin. JJ, hello. So happy you're here. So full disclosure, JJ is my inner circle friend. And I just want to talk a little bit about each person as we go along, because they're really important to me. And JJ has been my mentor. And if you are home sipping bone broth, or you know anything about the bone broth diet, you can thank this woman too. Because when I brought this to her, she knew right away what a revolution it was going to be. She took this, she picked up the phone and said, let's get this girl on PBS. She made it happen, like she makes everything happen. She has groups of people around her. I've never seen anything like it. She is extraordinary. She is a force to be reckoned with. So I'm so proud to call you my friend. So happy that you're here.
Love you.
So JJ is also, let's go through the rundown. She's a triple board certified nutrition expert, fitness hall of famer. She's passionate advocate about eating and exercising smarter. JJ and her team help people stay fired up and healthy as they age. They help people to look better even after the age 40. And don't we need that? She's a prominent TV and media personality whose previous features include a co-host of TLC Freaky Eaters, and I used to watch that show. Great show. 2 years as an on-camera nutritionist for weight loss challenges on Dr. Phil, and numerous appearances on PBS, Dr. Oz, Rachel Ray, Access Hollywood, Today Show, all the stuff. She's also has 4 New York Times bestsellers, and I said that, yes, 4. The Virgin Diet Cookbook, the Sugar Impact Diet, and JJ's Sugar Impact Diet Cookbook. Her latest book, Warrior Mom, 7 Secrets to Bold, Brave Resilience, shows caregivers everywhere how to be strong, positive leaders for their families while exploring the nutritional lessons JJ learned as she fought for her son's life. It's quite a story. And so welcome, JJ.
Thank you.
Dr. Kilbane. So let's get to Dr. Kilbane. Hi, Dr. Kilbane. How are you?
Go ahead.
So I know Dr. Kilbane as, I call her Shishi. She's my Shishi. And she is, as we can see, she's a pediatrician, and I love her style and approach to children. She's a board certified pediatrician trained in integrative medicine. Realizing that she needed more, she sought additional training with Andrew Wahls. Today, she uses the best conventional and integrative medicine to find the root cause of illness. Her book, Healthy Kids, Happy Moms, 7 Steps to Healing and Preventing Your Child's Current Illnesses, will be available for purchase in the fall of 2020. Congratulations. We're so happy that you have a book. It's going to be great information. Welcome. We're happy you're here.
Thank you.
Maya, say hi, Maya.
Hi.
Maya, I met Maya on the set of Dr. Oz. We became quick friends. She's a bit of a media darling, this one. You can see her pretty much everywhere. She's a registered dietitian nutritionist and the founder of Nutrition Private Practice, specializing in nutrition for chronic disease prevention. She's adjunct facility at New York University, and she shares her approachable, real food-based solutions to millions of people through regular speaking engagements, writing on local and national publications via her social media account on Maya Feller RD. That's on Instagram, and a national nutrition expert on many, many shows. And she has a book, the Southern Comfort Foods Diabetes Cookbook. And the last time I saw you, we were having our matchas in New York, and everything fell apart the day after.
And who knew? Who knew?
Who knew? So welcome to the show. We're so happy to have you here.
Pleasure.
Wahls, Dr. Terry Wahls. Dr. Terry Wahls is somebody that, I love collaborating with because she is so rock solid in her message and what she's done. And her message riveted the world, literally, coming back from such a medical situation. And she has inspired many ever since. She's a clinical professor of medicine at the University of Iowa, where she conducts clinical trials. She's also a patient with secondary progressive multiple sclerosis, which confined her to a tilt-recline wheelchair for 4 years. Dr. Wahls restored her health using diet and lifestyle programs she designed specifically for her brain. And she now, this is so amazing to me, she now pedals her bike to work each day. She's the author of, many people I'm sure have heard of, the Wahls Protocol, How I Beat Progressive MS Using Paleo Principles and Functional Medicine. And the Wahls Protocol, a radical new way to treat all chronic autoimmune conditions using paleo principles, and the cookbook, the Wahls Protocol Cookbook for Life, the revolutionary modern paleo plan to treat all chronic autoimmune conditions. And wow, welcome, Dr. Wahls.
Hey, thank you.
So Jason, so Dr. Littleton and I are known to have 4-hour lunches in New York. He's a wonderful, wonderful, really committed father and husband, and just a super good, good human being. I'm proud to call him a friend. He's also a board certified family physician offering a convenient concierge healthcare. He emphasizes personal attention to prevention and a smart lifestyle choices for optimal health. Dr. Littleton serves as the chair of family medicine at Orlando Regional Medical Center, and he's the CEO and founder of Littleton Concierge Medicine. He serves patients in the Orlando area. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So happy to have you.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
So let's get to it. So JJ, I'm going to start with you, if I may. So I love your book, Sugar Impact. We all want to know about sugar, how it affects us, all of that. And that's my favorite book on really understanding how sugar works in the body. And you talk about how sugar makes us feel bloated, overweight, even moody. But talk to us about, we all want to know about our immune system now. So talk to us about what sugar does to our immune system.
First of all, isn't it exciting that prevention has finally come into the forefront? It's sexy. Prevention.
Right on.
Yay. So, I wrote the Sugar Impact Diet because after the Virgin Diet, the biggest question I got asked was how to get rid of the sugar. It was one of the 7 foods I talked about getting rid of. And we know sugar is key for getting rid of if you want to drop your belly fat, but it does a whole lot more than that. So it was easy to get people to start to look at sugar to talk about belly fat. But when you really look at sugar, it is super key to get it out of your diet if you want to strengthen your immune system. And that's what I look at right now. Is our number one goal right now is to have a super strong immune system so that if we get exposed, if we do get it, that we have every bit of our resources available to fight it. When you eat sugar, acutely after you eat sugar, your immune system goes down. You lose your ability to fight infections. But then long term, you've got a couple other things going on. We know sugar is inflammatory, so that's a problem. We also know that it can reduce your gut integrity and impact your gut microbiome, which is super important because 80% of your immune system is in your gut. The last thing that you want to do is lower that. And then the big problem here is right now we want to, and always, honestly, all the things we're talking about tonight, we want to just be carrying on. We're going to spark the whole concept of prevention and then keep that flame going forever. And you've got to have good nutrient density. That is why we eat. But if you're eating a high sugar impact food, you're naturally getting a low nutrient dense food. And that's a problem because the first place we're going to get a lot of those immune boosting nutrients is from our food, but not if we're eating a high sugar impact food.
What about all this fear and anxiety that we have? How does this affect our cravings? Because I feel like, before I decided to get my mind right with all this, that fear made me crave food more. And why does that happen?
Oh yeah, it's such a real thing. And that's a big challenge because it's going to affect a couple different areas in your body. When you get under stress, you are going to start to crave sugar because it starts to lower your serotonin. Your body craves sugar to help boost that serotonin up. The other thing that starts to happen is when you get stressed, you get more gut permeability, which can lead to more food intolerance, which actually leads to more cravings. And as we know, when you get stressed, you start to get in trouble with your sleep. The lower serotonin impacts your body's ability to make melatonin. Your sleep gets disrupted. Sleep and stress, of course, are other risk factors for having a low immune system. But if you're not sleeping well, you've got bigger problems because you also are going to have bigger hunger and more cravings. So it's just this double-edged sword of all of these things ganging up on you, not only to impact your immune system, but to make you crave sugar that's going to further impact your immune system.
Yeah, and Dr. Littleton, so many of us right now, we are finding out that we have whole new careers. We're now homeschoolers, and now we're IT people. We're figuring out all these electronics. I mean, it can go on and on. So we're run down and we're depleted. Tell me, how does this impact our effects of actually, I would think it puts us at more risk for getting viruses.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just like JJ said, a lot of times when people are stressed, they will eat comfort foods, including sugar. And it does exactly what she said it does. Along with that, it increases cortisol. And one of the problems with increasing cortisol is that a lot of times it increases the blood glucose. This weakens your immune system. And so, I've worked with patients and I've told patients that it's very important that they get good sleep, that they move, eat, drink, sleep, which is part of my meds protocol. And I've educated people about making sure that they take time for themselves, whether it's going for a walk or doing something that I call stretch out sleep, getting that extra sleep that they need to get so they can have restorative rest and improve their immune system.
Amaya, we talked about these new responsibilities that people have, and you were smiling the whole time because the last time we spoke, we were talking about this. How many people are doing things that they've never done before? So right now we're homeschooling, we're cooking from scratch, we're working from home instead of the office, we're managing all these new boundaries of work, school, family. Tell us, how do we put all this together and not fall apart?
So, what I've been telling a lot of my patients who I see, and most of the people that I work with have a diet-related chronic illness. So they're trying to keep their labs within regular limits, within that parameter that we want, whether it's their blood sugars or their blood pressure. And this is the time where I say, give yourself some grace, right? We're all expecting perfection. However, under duress, perfection is really hard. And when you allow some of that stress to be lifted off, it is actually easier to literally go one day at a time. So the first thing I say is give yourself some grace. Number two, know that we're trained only in what we're trained in. I'm a dietitian. I'm not a homeschool teacher. I don't know anything about early childhood education. And so I give myself that, right? So it's really understanding that this is all new for all of us. And especially when we're thinking about food, so many of my patients are not accustomed to cooking for themselves. I live in New York. Ordering in is completely what a lot of people do. It's fast, it's easy, but now they find themselves in the kitchen. So go slow, start simple. Think about ingredients that you can manipulate and manage and create things that it doesn't have to be grandiose, but it just needs to be nutritious and delicious.
So what about parents whose kids are used to fast food? And now they're experiencing all these firsts. So they're getting broccoli instead of a cupcake or French fries. How do we help parents with this? Because it's time for the ultimate first right now.
Right. So I love Ellen Satter, and Ellen Satter has this division of responsibility, right? It's up to the parents to decide what, where, and when, and it's for the child to decide if and how much. So if the parent decides that today is broccoli, we know that it takes 8 to 10 exposures to a new food before a child would accept that food. So we're going to say, try to continue offering that broccoli, maybe alongside a baked potato, maybe even a potato that has been, roasted with some herbs and spices, so they're more likely to accept it. And really, consistency is key, right? So making sure that the TV is off at meal times, not having these overstimulating situations as we're trying to eat, so not competing with the mealtime. family mealtime where possible makes it so much easier. And then just being ever so consistent, day after day, offering well-balanced, nutritious meals with some space for fun items, right? So maybe a little bit of fruit here and there along with the overall meal.
I think that's good advice for parents. I think that is what I'm hearing more than ever. Parents are just really struggling right now with wanting to do a good job with bringing all this together, with making sure their academics are done, helping them with the IT behind all the academics, and putting food on the table. So, Dr. Kilbane, you are a pediatrician. So speaking to this, and Dr. Kilbane's kind of the Dr. Seuss of all pediatricians. I call her when I have an issue. She's amazing. Tell me what you would tell parents that are struggling with all of this. How do they keep it all together? How do the parents, from their perspective, and for the kids, how do we all weave this in?
Yeah, well, I think Maya made such a good point, is give yourself that grace. And then I think this is an incredible opportunity because we have our kids in this sequestered environment. So we have control over what they eat, even the teenagers who normally are going out and getting sodas and McDonald's. So we have this control over them right now. And if we engage them, and especially everything from the teenagers to the younger kids, if we engage them in helping and being part of the decision, none of us like to be told what to do, especially kids. And so if we take this time, there's a great Montessori principle of don't do for your kids what they can do for themselves. And now we have the time to let them help us cut things up, to let them help us figure out what we're going to make. And, I love adding a smoothie to kids' daily diet, because you can pack 2 or 3 servings of fruits and vegetables into them and they don't even know it. And if they're part of making it, they're going to be much more engaged in eating it that way.
Yeah, so when I hear all these things, a word that comes to mind, and I want to pull you in, Dr. Wahls, I hear a lot about when I'm thinking of foods and trying to make it easy. It really does come down to inflammation a lot of times.
Yes.
Make sure that we keep the inflammation down. So what I'd like for people to hear, just to inspire them so they can really understand the power of what nutrition and food can do for them and how preventative, as JJ said, it can be. Can you please briefly tell everyone your story,
Sure.
which is really miraculous. And then I want you to, if you could, I want you to hit on the foods that are so anti-inflammatory, why we should walk towards that and how powerful they are.
So I have multiple sclerosis, diagnosed in 2000. I'd been a low-fat vegetarian for many years. I went continually downhill. By 2003, I'm in a tilt recline wheelchair. I'd been introduced to the work of Lauren Cordain. I adopted the paleo diet, going back to eating meat, giving up all grain, legumes, dairy. Continue to go downhill. I'm taking more potent drugs, including these new biologics. By 2007, I cannot sit up as I am now. I'm too weak. I'm in this special zero gravity chair with my knees higher than my nose. I'm beginning to have problems with brain fog. I have trigeminal neuralgia, which is electrical face pains across my face that are increasingly severe and difficult to manage. But fortunately, I discovered the Institute for Functional Medicine. I take their course on neuroprotection. I have a longer list of supplements. And then, which I add, not a lot's changed. But then I had this really big aha, which in retrospect, my dietitian colleagues and JJ, you'll probably laugh about this. It's like, what if I redesign my paleo diet based on this long list of nutrients that I was taking in supplement form, and I got it from the food? So that was more research to figure out where these things were in the food ingredients. And I redid my diet. And the results were stunning. Within 3 months, my pain is gone, my fatigue is gone, my brain fog is gone, and I'm beginning to walk again. In 6 months, I am able to get on my bike for the first time in 6 years, and I bike around the block. My kids are crying, my wife is crying, I'm crying. If I talk about it much longer, I'll start crying now, because that really felt miraculous. It changed how I thought about disease and health. It changed the way I practice medicine. 6 months later, in fact, my wife found an 18.5 mile bike ride, signed us up for it, and I did the whole 18.5 miles. So I radically changed the way I practice medicine. We started doing case reports, and my chief of staff called me in along with the chair of medicine, and we refocused my research so that I began testing my protocol in others with MS. Others with progressive MS could implement my protocol, and we remarkably improved their fatigue, or reduced their fatigue, improved their quality of life, improved their motor function. We're just finishing up our 4th trial, and we're just getting ready to start our 5th trial. So I'm out there changing the world to let people know that diet and lifestyle have profound effect. Because if I can come back from such profound disability by diet and lifestyle, and I've seen this in my clinics and in my clinical trials, then there's absolutely hope for you too.
I really hope everyone locks in what was just said, that story, because this is about starting out with having a belief system, really understanding, you know, a lot of what we talk about, you have so many choices. It's paradigm and belief, and understand that this doctor went from a wheelchair to now living a very full, healthy, robust life. And congratulations to you for really, you know, taking this and going with it. And so a lot of what you did, would you say that it was because you did focus in on, would you say that inflammation was the lead in this?
So it's 2 things. I focused on mitochondria, and I focused on controlling inflammation. So the supplements are all about mitochondria. I redesigned my diet to get my mitochondria in good control and fully working.
Okay, time out 1 second, Dr. Wahls. Explain the powerhouse of the mitochondria and why everyone should care.
So all of our cells rely on the mitochondria to convert the food we eat into chemical energy that our mitochondria use to drive the chemistry of life assigned to that particular cell. So our brain, our retina, our heart have the most mitochondria per cell, but all of our organs will have mitochondria, and we rely on them. If your mitochondria can't work well, you start having brain fog, you start having pain, you have difficulty with early macular degeneration, you start having heart problems, and you'll begin to have problems with your organs in general.
I think we're going to hear a lot more about the mitochondria in the future. I think it's going to be a really important part. There's mitophagy, which we're going to learn more about. We're going to hear a lot about it.
And then, again, as MS is a combination of neurodegeneration, a mitochondrial problem, and inflammation problem. So as I was designing my dietary interventions, I knew I had to turn off the excess inappropriate inflammation. And now, as we're thinking about, you know, the cytokine storm and wanting to avoid that catastrophe, it comes down to having your immune cells have that NF-kappa B molecule modulated inappropriate. And
so cytokine storm, everyone, this is when your immune system goes really wonky. So sometimes we think about immune system and that we want our immune system fired up all the time, but sometimes the immune system can overfire, and that's can be disastrous.
We need to be able to ramp up to fight off the virus, but then we have to quickly ramp back down. And if a molecule called NF-kappa B is overly activated, you overrun your ramp up of the immune system and you can't turn it off. But if our NF-kappa B function is normal and appropriate, then you can ramp up and you can ramp back down. And this is all about eating these radical things known as vegetables. Eating, you know, a lot of cabbage family vegetables, you know, broccoli, radishes, cabbages, turnips, a lot of onion family, onions, garlic, a lot of mushrooms, deeply colored things like beets, carrots, tomatoes, berries, peppers. Those are really powerhouses for normalizing your cytokines, normalizing the NF-kappa B.
It really comes down to that all of the time, doesn't it? I mean, there's foods that work best with our body and they reduce inflammation in the body. And that's what you did to take charge of your health. And
Correct.
It can be that, you know, it's not an oversimplification to say that these vegetables that you just named, because really what people want to hear tonight, Dr. Wahls, they want to hear, what exactly do I need to eat? What exactly do I need to do? So I think that we can best benefit everyone.
You want to get rid of the sugar JJ nailed it. You got to get rid of the sugar. That's very, very harmful. And then replace the sugar, the high glycemic index foods, the pastas, breads, cereals, with vegetables. Now, in my plan, designed specifically for your brain cells and to reduce inflammation, it's greens, it's cabbage family, onion family, mushroom family, bright colors. Then we talk about protein, whether you're a vegetarian or whether you're a meat eater. I have plans both ways for that. Now, because it's hard for us to get fresh salads, because I'm telling people, you have to think that you're in a world where we have to worry about traveler's diarrhea. So I want people to have their food cooked. So I'd rather they have sauerkraut for the vitamin C and citrus that they could peel and discard the peelings. So I'm pushing the vegetables cooked, your protein source cooked, sauerkraut for the vitamin C, citrus if you can for the vitamin C, olive oil, extra virgin olive oil would be good. If you tolerate bacon well, that's our secret to having the kids love their vegetables is we fry a little bit of bacon, chop it up.
Bacon. Everything's bacon.
Everything's better with bacon. And then you put the vegetables in.
Bacon and dark chocolate makes everybody happy.
The vegetables in for 2 minutes, put the bacon back in, serve that. And then if the kids didn't love it, I just double up the bacon the next time. And, that's the recipe that I give to my vets in my veteran affairs clinic. And, these crusty old vets, men and women, come back and they love bacon and vegetables.
JJ, I learned so much at your house. When I go to your house, I always find goodies. The last time I was there, what did I find? I found the nut cheese, which was next level. It was delicious.
Oh, I made a cheesecake that we had yesterday with almond cream cheese and almond ricotta. That was just amazing, a quarantine cheesecake. And tonight we had wild rice and cauliflower rice mixed together, 2 to 1. A lot more cauliflower rice to wild rice and some salmon, because we're in our freezer. We have a Tetris styled freezer right now, but we went and got a load of broccoli rice and cauliflower rice, so we'd be able to do just what Dr. Wahls says. And you know what I love more than anything, and you haven't even talked about this, Dr. Wahls, is she travels with her cabbage.
I've seen
that. True.
Because
I have to have a huge amount of vegetables when I travel, otherwise my energy declines. So I travel with a head of cabbage. I get stopped, or I used to get stopped going through TSA all the time. People want to inspect my cabbage. And it's beautiful because it travels so well. In the hotel room, it doesn't need refrigeration. It's very happy. And so that makes it very easy. My refrigerator now has several heads of cabbage in them. So we can keep making sauerkraut as my supply dwindles. And so this is just a superb food to have now. And if you want to have it raw, you can just peel the outer leaves, discard those, and then yes, you're fine to have that raw.
But you're getting a 2-for-1 with that sauerkraut because you're feeding your gut microbiome too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's the whole key. And I know, Maya, you are, people go to you because they want to know exactly what should I eat. Your diet specific. So what are your best practices there? What do you love, especially right now when we're all working on our immune system?
Yeah, so my best practices are, first, evaluate where you are, right? So if you're on like a full fast food diet, and if you filled your freezer with kind of the same things that you used to go out and eat, the question is, how do you, in a step-by-step motion, begin to reduce the proportion of those items on your plate while increasing the proportion of plants? We've heard this evening how incredible plants are, unequivocally, 100%. I always say to my patients, I want a minimum of half of your plate as a non-starchy vegetable. Now, some of them give me the side eye and they look back at me and they're like, absolutely not. It's not happening. No way. And so I say, okay, well, what are you willing to do, right? Where can we go from here? Because I recognize that the way that we all eat and how I eat, for some people, is not 100% feasible that first time around. So begin moving in the direction where you can get half to 3/4 of your plate as that non-starchy vegetable, and you begin to increase the proportion of those whole and minimally processed foods while you're crowding out the pro-inflammatory and heavily processed foods. So that's, I think a lot of my patients right now, they rushed the freezer department and they went and they got a lot of these frozen pizzas and all of that type of stuff. And then the question is, oh no, now going to the grocery store, at least in New York, many people are saying, they don't want to go anymore. And they recognize that they've run low on the fresh produce. So it's like, well, what do? Maybe if you've got a cabbage, like Dr. Wahls says, go ahead, slice up that cabbage and reduce the quantity of pizza that you're having from the freezer, right? So I think it's really also about balance.
Yeah, so much of this is mindfulness. Dr. Kilbane, to you, I want to throw something at you. I want to switch a little bit in speaking about this, because a lot of people are worried about the respiratory health of their children right now, because we know COVID is pretty mild in most kids. It's a different story for children that have these issues with respiratory. So what can parents do to protect their children? Is there anything nutritionally that we can do to help them? And what is the situation with that?
Yeah. So the way everyone is talking and what Dr. Wahls was talking about, that inflammation. So we want to keep the inflammation down. And if we have kids, especially kids who get recurrent respiratory illnesses or asthma where you need albuterol, is we really want to make sure we have that inflammation down. And the way that I always describe it is that there are 5 triggers of inflammation. So it's food, environmental allergies, environmental toxins, stress, and infections. So we have all those right now, but the biggest one we have control over right now is food. So asthma is a good example. Is you're going to get this big whoosh of inflammation when you get exposed to a virus. So we want to take that cup of inflammation. So if you have a cup of inflammation, and the body is the cup and the water is the inflammation, when it's overflowing, that's when we have symptoms: runny nose, congestion, wheezing. So if we say we have, maybe we do a lot of sugar and a lot of processed foods. So if we decrease those in sugary drinks, we may take our cup of inflammation to where it's only about a 1/4 or a 1/2 cup full. And then when we get exposed to a virus, whether it's COVID or the flu or a common virus, we're not going to get such an increase of inflammation that we're going to have all the symptoms that we used to have. So it's always about setting the foundation. And that's what everyone is talking about. And that's what you were saying when we started, Kellyann, is that it's about being ready for it. And even if you were, if you have a diet that you are doing a lot of sugar and processed foods, this is the time to just take one step at a time. And maybe just stop the sodas. Get a little mineral water, squeeze some lemon or orange in it, or even put a little bit of orange juice in it, and start to pull yourself off of the sodas so that your overall systemic inflammation will be lower. And if your child or you do get exposed to this, it's not going to be that big inflammation that it would be, when you're doing a lot of sugar and a lot of processed foods.
Yeah, I agree. And Dr. Littleton, you talk a lot about water, quality of water, alkaline water, all of that. Speak to why you feel that that's important. And right now we're going through a crisis, and everyone's a shortage of this and worried about this. Should we be worried about water right now?
Well, yes, I think it's very important, first of all, to hydrate, alkalinize the body. So alkaline water, there are a lot of different types of water that you can choose out there. So if anyone needed to choose off the bat or got confused, first thing first, drink water. I usually recommend at least 1 liter a day, because we get water from other sources like fruit juices and the like. But the main thing is, if you don't have kidney problems, if you don't have heart failure, at least drink at least 1 liter a day. I like alkaline water because keeping the body alkaline is really helping your body to stay energized. And I'm all about energy, as you know. And I really want people to make sure that they detoxify the body. And it's one of the ways that we can keep the body detoxified. And when we talk about mitochondrial production of energy, because mitochondria produce ATP, relieving stress, detoxifying the body, it helps relieve the pressure that the mitochondria will face in our cells. And that's why we want to make sure that we support our body. We want to reduce stress. We want to eat things like certain proteins, like lentils, to help support not only the mitochondria, but to help support our body and our immune system. So, and I also believe that alkaline water helps do that. So it's something that I drink, and I totally recommend that people drink. And, but above all, if you're not able to do that, drinking water is the most important. Any kind of water is the most important thing.
JJ, you talk about, in your books, you talk about slow carbs versus fast carbs. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, Maya alluded to this when she was talking about eating whole foods and minimally processed. Basically, when I looked at sugar impact, I was looking at a couple of things. I was looking at, on the bad side, I was looking at how much does a food raise your blood sugar and or insulin? Because foods that are high in fructose may look like they're not impacting your blood sugar much, but they're really impacting your insulin. And then I contrasted that with fiber and nutrient density. So those are the good guys. We want to have foods that are, basically we want to unprocess our diet. We want to eat foods that are minimally processed or whole foods that have a lot of fiber and nutrient density. And that's what slow carb foods are. That means that they're going to have a slower rise to your blood sugar, so it'll give you steady, sustained energy. What we want is, we want to get energy from our foods, but we don't want it to be chaotic. We want to have a nice, steady, slow release of energy, and that's what you get when you eat slow carbs. Examples of that would be things like butternut squash, or sweet potatoes, or lentils, or wild rice, things that have a lot of fiber that are as close to nature as possible.
So what do you think about these new Wonder Noodles, Wonder Rice, all of that kind of stuff? Is that, did you give that a thumbs up?
Is that the shirataki noodles?
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually got to spend some time with one of the guys, John, who brought it over from Japan. And I remember, I lived in Japan, so I remember all of this from Japan. And these are really interesting foods. They're great, like I love to do swaps. So one of the great swaps for pasta is to use a blend of these shirataki noodles, and because they're glucomannan, they're really good for your blood sugar.
Can you spell that? Can you spell shirataki for everyone? Do you know how to spell that?
Well, they're really asking. Or konjac. I'm sorry, they're konjac.
Yeah, Konjak.
JAC. I think it's JAC. The easy brand is Miracle Noodles. That is the guy who came over. We cooked them in my kitchen. He showed me how to do it. Here's the caveat with them. They are a sea vegetable. You must rinse them. They're very fishy, sea smelling, and you want to dry saute them. If you do them correctly, they can be really incredible. And you could mix them, say, with wild rice. If you use the Miracle Rice, you could mix them with spaghetti squash, or say a lentil pasta, so that you'll be able to have more bulk without a ton of calories. So that can be good for you to do. And they're good for blood sugar balancing. But again, I'm going to look at, like, there's so many simple solutions that we can do here, like spaghetti squash, cauliflower rice, broccoli rice, that are easy ways for us to get more nutrient density and unprocess our diet.
People are asking, what kind of nut cheese do you like?
Well, there's a couple things you can do here. You can actually, now that you're home, this is so fantastic to me that we are now cooking. Like, this is it's great. I have my 22-year-old son, and when my son was 14, my friends told me to make sure I checked his browsers on his computer to make sure he wasn't watching porn. And I go, he would not watch porn. He was watching cooking videos. So this is my son who loves
Bryce?
Bryce has been cooking a lot of our dinners for us. But what a great opportunity to start to learn to cook, and especially learn to cook with some of the things that you bought that you now have no idea what to do with. We've been doing all sorts of fun different dinners. We bought all this acorn squash by accident. So I'm like, Bryce, figure out what to do with this, how to stuff it. He made butternut squash soup. He made stuffed acorn squash, incredible things with this. And I think it's really an opportunity for us to learn how to make amazing food with all of these things we put into our pantry and our freezer, right?
It is. It's wonderful. So I want to talk a little bit about supplements, because people are, really curious about supplements. But before I do that, I just want one more quick hit from, we'll just spend a moment on this. Dr. Littleton, best practices for food. Let's specifically talk about what you would tell a patient that during these times, what do they need to be thinking about? Give us a quick hit.
Well, the first thing that they need to be thinking about is making sure that, again, they're reducing sugar and they're eating good quality fats. You know, one of the things that I love to help support the immune system are things like oily fish, avocados, coconut oil, olive oil, flaxseed oil. You know, I take 2 tablespoons of flaxseed oil in the morning because it's really important that not only is it important for energizing mitochondria, but it's also important for your immune system. And when we talk about supplements, the 3 main ones, especially in this pandemic right now, that I'm preaching everywhere, on the news everywhere, is vitamin D, zinc, and vitamin C. High dose vitamin D is something that I take to protect myself when I'm working with COVID-19 patients. I take even greater than 30,000 international units of vitamin D3. Vitamin C, when we talk about 500 milligrams every 6 hours, if that's too much, I usually tell people 1,000 milligrams twice a day. And then when we talk about zinc, zinc is a huge one. That is so important. You want at least 30 milligrams of elemental zinc. Zinc's been implicated in stopping RNA replication in viruses. So that's really important. So people who are depleted with zinc, they really need to replete themselves and take this very important supplement. So this is something that I preach everywhere I go. Good fats and those 3 main supplements. You know, if I had to go further than that.
Let me get back, Dr. Littleton, just one moment, because everyone seems to have a different prescription for vitamin D.
Yeah.
So your prescription for vitamin D is how much? How many IUs?
I take at least 30,000 international units of vitamin D3, sometimes even more than that, you know? And, you know, this is the thing. You have to go with what your comfort level is. I'm working very closely with people who have respiratory syndromes, and so I have to protect my immune system. You know, the average person will tell you take somewhere between 1,000 to 2,000 international units of vitamin D3. I go higher than that because I know, and I have no side effects with that. And there are other doctors who will say the same thing. Some of the doctors I work with on the grassroots, they will talk about taking high dose vitamin D as a way to protect yourself. I've had people who've had symptoms and they'll take high dose vitamin 3 and within 24 hours, they're feeling a little bit better. And so vitamin D along with zinc and vitamin C is very crucial. And again, vitamin D3 is the one that people, that's the one that I recommend. That's the one that I take.
I love, Maya, that you talk a lot about foods that have these natural elements in them. Talk about the foods that you find that have high doses of these. You know, we talk about C, zinc, quercetin. We all seem to be singing the same tune here. What are some foods that people can get? And then Dr. Wahls, I want to ask you a question along a similar vein, but tell us what you think, Maya.
Right. So in terms of vitamin D, when we're looking at dietary sources, you know, it's a lot of fortified foods, and those you have to read the labels with those. So if you really want to do vitamin D, it can be in some of the fatty fish and trace amounts. In eggs, that's a good source. If you're able to tolerate eggs, I always say that that's good. And some mushrooms, depending on how they've been processed, are a good source of vitamin D. When we're looking at zinc, you know, we can find it across many food groups. So some of the nuts and seeds are going to be good sources of zinc. I also say, I mean, I agree with Dr. Littleton here. Like, you might need to look towards supplementation to get that real high bioavailability, because sometimes when you eat food, not that it's bound, but the way that your body absorbs, it's competing for absorption depending on if it's a combination food or not. I'm not saying not to eat your foods, because you can absolutely eat your vitamins, but sometimes you have to think about, you know, really going for a supplement.
Dr. Wahls, what do you think? Because I know you talk a lot.
Okay.
Sorry for cutting off there, Maya. Dr. Wahls,
Yes.
You always talk about food. What
Food, absolutely. So vitamin D, we get vitamin D through our skin. So it's sunlight. You want to get outside, get sunlight, get a light, a bit of pink on your skin. That's the equivalent of 20,000 units of vitamin D. And the amount of vitamin D that you need is dependent on the level of pigment in your skin and how far, how north you are. So if you're African American or a brown or black individual with pigmented skin, your vitamin D requirement is different than someone who's from Northern Europe who has very pale skin. So get outside, get a tan. If you have pigmented skin, you're absolutely going to need a higher blood level. And ideally, you know what your blood level is, so you know, do you need 10,000, 20,000? What is the amount of vitamin D that you require? If you overshoot, that's a different kind of problem. Acutely, a sudden burst of vitamin D will increase antimicrobial peptide, which is one of the reasons why people who are acutely exposed to viruses may choose on a short-term basis, a much higher dose of vitamin D than they would take long-term. And it depends on your ethnic background and your vitamin D receptors as to what is the dose that will be best for you. No one's mentioned vitamin A yet. We also need retinol, which is the pre-made vitamin A, to effectively fight viruses for that. And that's the reason that I'm very keen on having people eat liver 6 to 8 ounces once a week. That was a tradition in my household. And so either have liver once a week or take organ meat capsules, or think about taking additional vitamin A, perhaps in the form of cod liver oil or a vitamin A supplement. Long term, we want to be careful that we don't over replace vitamin A, because you can end up with scarring of the liver and the lungs. But liver 6 to 8 ounces a week, fabulous for you. We have organ meat capsules, also fabulous for you. In the liver, you'll have easily absorbed zinc. You'll have easily absorbed copper. The other thing I like to have people do is use sea salt to get the trace minerals. And now when we're all stressed and anxious, because this is a very different environment that we're trying to sort out, I encourage people to take Dead Sea mineral soaks and Epsom salt soaks. You could do a couple tablespoons in a bucket of warm water, put your feet in. If you're able to, and you have a bathtub, to take a whole body bath soak and Epsom salts and Dead Sea minerals soaks. It's
so wait, one second. So Dead Sea minerals.
Yes.
Okay.
Minerals
so
from the Dead Sea.
Write down the chat. So Dead Sea minerals or
Epsom salts. Put that in the bath. You can do a foot soak, and that's what my family did. But now I do body soaks. And this is a wonderful strategy to help improve the quality of your sleep, help everyone relax, given that many people are anxious and stressed during this time period. And it helps address mineral depletion, because if we're depleted in our minerals are cofactors for vitamin A, vitamin C, and for actually all of our vitamins, and for many of our enzymes. We have to be sure that we have plenty of minerals. That's one of the reasons I'm so fond of having people do these Dead Sea mineral soaks. The Epsom salt soaks will help you replenish your magnesium. And many of us are depleted on magnesium, particularly if you're stressed and anxious. You lose more magnesium.
That's great advice. Dr. Kilbane, I have a question for you. Elderberry, should we be taking elderberry? And there's also questions during this whole crisis, if you could give any guidance that you can. We've been hearing all these things about, should we be giving ibuprofen? Should we not be? Can you give us some guidelines there? So should they be using elderberry syrup? All of these things. These are questions that we keep hearing counter information.
Yeah. So elderberry it's a potent antioxidant, and it has been shown to help with influenza as well as the common cold. It helps shorten the course of them. But what happens is, because it stimulates the immune system, which is what happens when you get COVID, you get that cytokine storm that Kellyann was talking about. And it's possible that it may make the symptoms worse. So currently what I'm recommending for my patients is that you can take it, and I would take it on smaller doses of it. Sometimes people will be taking a tablespoon 3 times a day, maybe taking a teaspoon once a day. But if the child gets symptoms, or if you get symptoms, stop it immediately. So that's for the elderberry. And then the second thing for ibuprofen. So the ibuprofen thing, there was some information out of Germany that said with ibuprofen, it made COVID symptoms worse. And then it got tweeted by another health minister, and there wasn't really concrete data about this.
Okay.
So it's not clear if you should be, if kids or adults should be taking ibuprofen when they get this virus. So to be completely on the safe side, if needed to control a fever, we could do Tylenol. However, we also have to remember that fever is the body's natural way of fighting an infection. So if we can let the fever ride a little bit, you know, if you're comfortable, if you're able to stay hydrated, then we can let that ride. And if you are going to do Tylenol to control a fever, write it down. The times that I've seen kids come to the hospital for liver failure is when two different parents are giving the medications and they overdosed because they didn't realize the other parent gave it. So this would also go for grandparents or whoever. If you're taking care of someone, write down the time that you gave the medication so that you can keep track of it. So it's to be completely err on the side of safety. We could stick with ibuprofen for Tylenol, or sorry, for headache control, but we need more data truly to have a better
grasp of that.
A better grasp on it. Yeah.
Yeah. So JJ, you and I talk a lot about supplements. You know how I feel about Designs for Health. It's a great product line. Tell me your arsenal for this whole. Who did I call when it went down? She and I were texting back and forth about the supplements and, you know, what we need to do to really get the armor going. So give us your recommendations.
All right. And I will say that, like, we are all so much in agreement here. First, starting with food, because you want to get as much as you possibly can from food. And I think one of the places that we can really start every single morning, Tim lays out 2 Brazil nuts for everybody in the house. And so this is a great way to get all the selenium you need and to get some zinc. So I've seen a lot of comments over here about lectins and what about vegetables and oh my gosh. And soak your nuts and then low roast them in an oven at about 200 degrees for a couple hours. But that's a great way to get your zinc, to get your selenium, to get your magnesium. I take an Epsom salts bath every single night. I just went to the Dead Sea a couple months ago before Israel closed down. Got a bunch of salts from there, but
yeah, you snuck that one in there.
Oh my gosh, I just made it.
But
you know, it was so interesting. I will tell you that because I was going to Europe and this was breaking out in China at the time, I went with masks, with I had hand sterilizer, and I had all these supplements, and I've been all these supplements the entire time. Now I generally, because I nearly lost a son a couple years ago and I spent months in the ICU. So this is all the stuff that I did so that I would not get sick when my son was in the ICU, because if your son's in the ICU and you're sick, you don't get to go see him. And so the first thing I did, and what I'd love to see in the research is, I'd love to see these people that they're saying that are dying who appear to be healthy. I'd love to see what were their nutrient levels like of these things. Because we talk about the recommended daily intake, we really need to talk about the optimal daily intake and what do we need to do to have optimal levels of all of these different nutrients. Every day I'm taking a great multi that has C and zinc and D and A and quercetin and selenium, but I'm also taking extra vitamin D3 with K1 and 2. And the way I've always dosed D is to look at a vitamin D test. If you can still get one done now, it's kind of challenging. And to make sure that I'm optimizing between 50 and 80 NGs per ml. I live in the sunshine. I'm out in the sun every single day here in Florida, but I'm still one of those people who I have to take at least 5,000. I take 10,000 IUs a day, and I have to do that to get to about 70. So I just am one of those people that genetically doesn't make my vitamin D well out in the sun. So those are the things I've been doing. Right now, I'm taking extra, and this is what I have with my family and friends. And when I started to do the research, this was the protocol that I got that the South Korean doctors were doing, was about 5,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day in divided doses, because it's water soluble. If you get sick, take that one up. I actually have IVs of vitamin C at home for that reason. So if you can get liposomal vitamin C or IVs, you'll be able to do higher doses. And literally when you get sick, you want to do this to bowel tolerance, because your body will basically tell you what you need, and you do it in divided doses. Zinc, I'm taking 50 milligrams a day. If you get sick, I would double that. Make sure you always do zinc with food. It makes you nauseous. Vitamin D, I'm doing 10,000. If I get sick, I'm kicking that to 50,000 during the time I'm sick. Vitamin A, I'm doing 5,000. I'd kick it to 150,000 if I get sick. Quercetin, I'm doing 1,000 milligrams a day. What I saw from the South Korean doctor protocols as they were doing 1,000 3 times a day if someone got sick. And then I'm also doing probiotics and fish oil and of course the selenium, but I'm getting that. That's so easy to get from Brazil nuts. And I'm doing andrographis and medicinal mushrooms and beta glucan as well. All in I use a product from Designs for Health called Immunotone Plus, and it's got andrographis and elderberry and medicinal mushrooms and beta glucan, and monolaurin. So it's really good. And I think a couple of the food items that we haven't really talked about that are so important is coconut is just a rock star here because coconut's got monolaurin, and that is a natural antiviral. Use as much garlic as you can, especially if you can do it raw, because that's a natural antiviral. So that's great. And ginger. So it's a great time to use those spices because they're amazing. And of course, avocado, and what we've done is we've taken avocado and we've frozen it in little chunks. And so I make an immune boosting smoothie in the morning with a bone broth protein with extra collagen. So I'm keeping my gut sealed because when
she really does, by the way, she does.
You know, because I've made you smoothies. Yep. But I'm throwing in the avocado. Why is avocado so great? It's got glutathione in it. Now you can do glutathione. There's great liposomal glutathione, but truthfully, I cannot stand the taste of glutathione. I absolutely love avocados. So I have avocado in my smoothie every day. Broccoli's got some too, but I do that. I do some strawberries for the vitamin C. I do the coconut for the monolaurin. I do the bone broth protein for the collagen and protein, and it's just fabulous. So, you know, I look first to how can I add more of this into food? What can I be eating? But I also recognize that much as I wish, I mean, I want to be Dr. Wahls, but I can't stand sauerkraut, and I'm probably not with cabbage. So, like, you know, I bow to you.
Yeah, you open up kimchi in your home, and the whole house disappears.
Oh my gosh! So Dr. Suzanne Bennett brought kimchi to one of my, like, we had a little house party event, and I'm like, the whole house smelled. I'm like, oh, Suzanne, come on.
For days.
But, you know, and things like oysters, which could be amazing to get zinc, but bleh, you know, so you got to look at what you'll eat. I also have a freezer full of bone broth, and so we've been doing that as well, and it's fantastic. And then things like red peppers, where you can get that quercetin, and red onions and apples. Where you get vitamin C and quercetin, especially citrus fruit, you know, anything where you can get more of that. But I'm hedging my bets on all of this. If I have a little bit of expensive urine, so be it. I'd rather have that. That's what I'm saying. And so I've got the whole family and all of our friends on this protocol so that we've got our protective armor on.
So, Stacy, if you want to put in the chat, people are asking the multivitamin. What is the name of the multivitamin?
There's a multivitamin from Designs for Health called Primal Multi. There's also, I have a daily essential pack that's got the Primal Multi and fish oil in it. Fish oil is another one that's great immune modulator and reduces inflammation. We haven't talked about that at all. I have Vital Choice stocked up in my freezer, so we've been eating fish a couple times a week, but we also take fish oil. You know, I'm a big fish oil fan anyway, so that's the other one. And the other thing that I've been taking is both a probiotic and a bacteriophage, so that it really helps not only give you probiotics, but also feed the bacteria the good bacteria in your gut and act as nature's antibiotic. Bacteriophages are a pretty amazing thing. So I've got one that I use as a combo product.
Okay, that's awesome. That's very inclusive and it entails a lot. So Stacy, make sure you give them those good hits. Dr. Kilbane, you say that you have a really great immune boosting protocol for children. What do you have for us?
Yeah, so we do, and I have this as a download. So if you don't want to take notes, well, I'll have it for you afterward. And it's always starting with the foundation. And we do a probiotic and a digestive enzyme because we want to make sure that this really good food that we're taking, we're digesting and absorbing. And then an omega-3 fat, a whole food supplement, vitamin D, and then for this time, what I use is a protease, which is that it helps the blood cells move more fluidly in our bloodstream. And then I use an immunoglobulin, which helps to bind the not so good bacteria in our gut. It helps to bind viruses and support the immune system. And then we will do zinc, vitamin C, and quercetin. And with kids, it's a little, like for zinc, I will only do a higher dose, like 15 or 30 milligrams for about 6 to 8 weeks, unless I'm checking the levels, because we also want to be careful, because we need, as Dr. Wahls and JJ both said, is we need a wide variety of minerals. So if we're doing a single one, we don't want to do that for a long, long time, because we want to make sure that we're getting all of them. And I have this indicated on the handout, so you'll know, the doses to take by age for kids, but always, always you want to talk to your pediatrician first before doing anything.
This is awesome. And I want to add my own two cents in. So the nutritional protocol, and JJ spoke about, it's the same nutritional protocol that I'm on. And, all the other experts talked about zinc, vitamin D, vitamin C. We talked about, all these goodies. Quercetin is something else that's really important that I hope everyone really takes into consideration. Also, one of the things that I've learned about this virus, it's inflammation and mucus. You want to keep your mucus as thin as possible. Mucus in our body is actually our friend. It's a good thing. It's very protective. But when that mucus becomes the wrong consistency, that's when it's a problem. Things like citrus fruits, and my favorite way to get citrus fruit in this vitamin C is just have lemon water. I love lemon water. It's really healthy, does the trick. Berries, there's a lot of research that show about it can help lung functioning as you age, so it lowers your risk of getting sick. So berries are important. As JJ said, fresh garlic. There's a lot of research behind garlic, and it tells you about how it can help you prevent the common cold. A little hint on this is cut the garlic up, wait before you either throw it in something. Just wait a little while, and all those active ingredients that keep you healthy, they come alive. Fresh ginger, again, scientists again are researching that the virus that infects the lungs, like coronavirus, found that ginger helped to block this. So just get a lot of ginger. Get a lot of ginger. Pumpkin seeds, they're also really good. Red bell pepper, by the way, people don't know. Red bell pepper, it is loaded with vitamin C. It's loaded with it, so get that in your body. And again, as JJ said, spinach, broccoli. I love bone broth. I love bone broth. I don't even need to say it. And turmeric. Turmeric is another real goodie. It's got curcumin in there, which is really a great antimicrobial. So that is my hit. So we're getting so many questions in, and I wish we had more time. We've now run a little bit over. I want everyone to end and tell us the one thing that you want everyone to know, and tell us where we can find you. Let's start with you, JJ. Where can everyone find more about you? And what is one last bit of messaging that you would like everyone to know?
Okay. So jjvirgin.com. Kellyann, I feel like when this whole thing hit, I felt like I was going back in time to when I was standing in the ICU the first night, looking at my son on a ventilator with tubes coming out of his brain in the central line. And I stood there and I went, all right, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? What do I need to do? And you feel so out of control. And I went, all right, I need to show up for him. I need to be strong. And in order to do that, the thing that I can do and the thing that's within my control is, first of all, my mindset, but to put my self-care first, because I knew I couldn't show up for him and I knew I couldn't be strong unless I was healthy. And what I would encourage everyone tonight is, it's scary. It's unknown. We have a lot of stuff going on. We need to be strong. But what we do have under our own control is that ability to take care of ourselves. And it might seem selfish, but I believe that self-care is the most selfless act you can do so that you can be able to show up. And the biggest thing here is that we are so much stronger than we think, and that we will get through this. It's going to be rough. There'll be silver linings. And, the one thing here is to put your health first so that you can show up and take care of the people that you love.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful sentiment. Dr. Kilbane, what do you have for us?
Well, I think JJ really covered it in that self-care. And I think especially for the kids, the adults set the tone for the home. And that the number one thing we can do for our kids is to manage our own stress. So do the Epsom salt baths, do the things that you need to do, walk, breathe, laugh. I mean, Kellyann, we were messaging today, and when I met Kellyann at JJ's conference, this was many years ago, we laughed the whole time. We danced.
We danced and we laughed. Yeah.
We danced and we laughed, and it was like we were in 7th grade. And doing that is going to outweigh any supplement on the planet, because that is going to that's going to activate your parasympathetic nervous system. It's going to let you relax, and you're going to digest, and you're going to stimulate your immune system. And that's going to do far more than anything else can do. So get out the board games, get out the stupid movies, call the people who you feel like you're in 7th grade with, and do those fun, silly things.
Well said. Where can we find you, Dr. Kilbane?
So SheilaKilbane.com. And like I said, I have an online course, and we'll have the supplement handout specifically for kids. And because it's hard to get dosing and find out all of those things. So
can we put everyone's website in the chat, please, Stacy? So we have jjvirgin.com and SheilaKilbane.com. Okay, can we put those in the chat? Thanks, Stacy.
You can, but I also send out on the email the day after as well.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you. Maya, you're muted, but tell us your last best good wishes. And, where can we find you?
Absolutely. So you can find me at mayafellernutrition.com. And my last best good wish is really, this is unprecedented, as everyone has said, right? So really, this is about going one day at a time, taking care of yourself and your community, right? So the people that you're close to and that you love, checking in on them, because that'll boost you up as well. And really just gentleness, kindness, grace, and taking it one day at a time.
Where can we find you?
You can find me at mayafellernutrition.com.
mayafellernutrition.com. Dr. Littleton, hello there, my friend.
Hey, thank you so much, Kellyann. The main message I want to communicate with people is don't fear. There's a lot of panic out there, and I know this is scary. But if we take the advice that we've talked today, everyone from JJ, Maya, Dr. Kilbane, Dr. Wahls, yourself, and we remember that the body is designed to fight infection. If we use good common sense, we don't live in a vacuum. So understand our body can defeat infection. Wash our hands. Be mindful not to touch our eyes, our nose, our face, okay? Make sure that we continue to move, eat, drink, and sleep.
Wonderful. And where can we find you, Dr. Littleton?
At jasonmd.com.
jasonmd.com. Dr. Wahls.
Okay. Whenever we face a crisis, individually or as a government, the typical sequence is denial, then anger, then bargaining. You don't want to change your life too much. You don't want to make too much inconveniences for your society. And eventually you get to acceptance. But I think there's a 5th level, because once you get to acceptance, you can either say, I have no control, it's whatever's going to be, it's going to be, or I can choose to learn from this circumstance and do the best that I possibly can. So I'm glad you're here listening to this, learning. That's my commitment, is I teach people how to eat, how to make sauerkraut, love sauerkraut, how to make liver, love liver, why vegetables are so powerful, why giving up sugar can be so powerful. You can find me at terrywahls.com. And if you go to terrywahls.com/diet, we have a 1-page handout. And particularly my tribe with autoimmunity are really struggling with, what do I do now in the era of COVID? So we spend a lot of time talking about autoimmunity and how to manage that risk.
Wonderful. And so I would say my last best wish would be, I want everyone to take a moment and to really think about, this is going to be a moment in time we're never going to forget. We're going to be talking about this. We're going to be looking back on this. Think about who you want to be on the other side of this. Who do you want to be? who can you transform to be? How can you, I woke up one day and this whole platform came to be, this Doctor's Night Out. I started getting into a funk about this. And I thought, how can I shift that? Well, you shift that by gratitude, and you shift it by thinking about what's important. Big game, not small game. And big game is, how can we shift the consciousness of everyone so they're not in fear, but they feel empowered? And then I thought, how can I bring empowerment to people? Well, I can bring empowerment to people by getting them the best experts out there. Everything, I don't care about what audience, I don't care about anything. All I want is the best people delivering you the best message in the right energy. And so for me, it's, who do you want to become? Think about that. Think about that tonight. And JJ, before we go, can you please introduce my little baby?
She was scratching at the door. She had to come in.
She heard my voice.
Like, she heard you and she goes, oh my gosh, it's Dr. Kellyann. I miss her so much. Why isn't she here?
Hey, baby. I want to thank everyone. This has been incredible. And I hope you all seek all of these amazing experts out because they certainly have a lot to offer. And I am signing off now in grace and in love, wishing you all the best. See you next time. Tomorrow, we have our quick fire at 1 p.m. Eastern with Dr. Kilbane, and we look forward to seeing you there on Instagram. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thanks.